on this computer. All right. Welcome, guys and gals. I appreciate y'all being here. Right now, we have a special guest who's going to drop a lot of gems, a lot of knowledge. He's going to provide so much value to us. If we could definitely pay the respects by listening first, and then we could ask questions towards the end. We have Richard Wonders, aka the Novation King, in the building.
Yo, my guy, dude, thank you so much for having me on, man.
Yeah, it's
definitely excited to chat with you guys. You want me to just kick things off?
Yeah, so if you can, if you're ready for that, that's perfectly fine. Or did you want me to ask you a few questions real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Okay.
Fire away.
Yeah, so Richard, when you started real estate, what did you do to start? Did you start wholesaling? Did you start as like regular wholesaler, or were you doing all around like sub two?
Oh, I started that. Here, I can stop. I just want to make sure it worked. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just gonna ask, how'd you got into real estate? Like, what initiated the idea to take action on real estate?
So I was in my 9th year of selling Kirby vacuums door to door, staying in cheap motels in crappy towns all across the Southwest, and slanging $3,000 vacuums to grandmas and grandpas and nice families.
Yeah.
So I had a buddy that I went to school with back in the day, elementary school. I thought he was a realtor, and I kept seeing him taking all these crazy vacations on Facebook, and I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years. And I hit him up just saying like, hey, man, shoot, that realtor thing seems like it's working out. And he told me he still has his license, but he's not doing retail. He's wholesaling. And he told me briefly what it was. And that's when I dove down the YouTube rabbit hole. Ended up finding Sean Terry, worked for Sean Terry for a year, and that's when I learned Novation. So when I first started, I was just doing straight wholesale, but I wasn't doing it myself. I worked for someone. I worked for Sean Terry for like 2 years.
Okay. Okay.
And gave me a lot of experience. It was a good move. It was the best move for me because I had no money when I was starting.
Yeah. And when you worked for Sean Terry, did he immediately recruit you, or did you have to qualify yourself to work with them? Like, was that a quick process, or like how did that unfold?
Oh no, he didn't recruit me. I recruited him, bro. He didn't know who I was, and it took some convincing, right? Because I wasn't anybody. I was a guy that was really good at selling Kirby vacuums. But yeah, I hit him up in the DMs. So I was searching wholesaling. I was watching different people. Sean Terry's style resonated most with me, and he was doing in-person appointments for the most part. And in Kirby, I was going into people's houses, doing sales presentation, and getting them to make a decision on the spot. So there was that parallel of there's the same general dynamic of earning their trust and convincing them over to your way of thinking, right? So no, I hit him in the DMs. I told him, because I was a top performer in Kirby. I made, what I thought was good money. Like some years I'd make 70, 80,000. Some years I'd make over 100, 110, 120. But I was working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. I hated the job. I'd hit the ceiling. I didn't want to open up my own Kirby office. I tried that, did that for like 3 years, ended up shutting it down. It was super labor intensive to run that. So yeah, I hit him up, told him I was a top performer, told him I really resonated with his sales style. And I know for a fact that his methods work because I do a lot of the same things in my position. And I was basically just looking for a better vehicle. And I was just persistent with him. He told me to send him a video. 5 minutes later, I went and sent him a video explaining like who I was and everything like that. He was like, wow, I can't believe you sent it that quick. I was like, I told you I'm serious. Like I've been watching you. I'm ready to go,
Yeah.
And I get why he's hesitant because I have people hit me up all the time now saying they want to work for me. And it normally doesn't work out because they like sending the DM, but they don't actually want, to pursue it. Right. But yeah, so I convinced him to let me work for him. And it took about a month and a half altogether through the interview process. And he gave me some different hoops to jump through. But within a few months, I was running like his sales department.
Mm,
And I got my first deal like within my first month. I got my first deal under contract, and I was his top performer like shortly after.
okay. That's pretty dope, bro. That's awesome. And after 2 years of working with them, is that when you developed enough confidence or enough finances to move on your own? Or what sparked the idea like, okay, I'm ready to move forward on my own?
So I had a month where I had a couple big deals close, and I brought in 360K for the company. And my cut of that was like 45,000, like after everything was said and done. So that was the most money I'd ever touched at one time, right? And I had this check coming, and basically, the long story short is me and him got into it about a hire. I kind of popped off a little bit. I threw some things in his face that I probably shouldn't have, where he
Mm,
had made a bad decision on a hire. I had recently made a good decision on a hire. And I basically threw that in his face, like, hey, remember you hired this guy and you thought he was good. He sucked. Not bad, but I basically said that. I'm like, look at my guy killing it. Why the hell are you questioning me? And then basically me and
yeah.
him got into it, and he fired me. So I didn't
Damn.
decide to leave. He canned me.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the
But I had
honesty.
told him, like, I had basically yeah, I told him, I said, hey, look, if you guys don't trust my judgment, I'm literally bringing in like crazy amounts of money. My new guy, he just did 130K deal. Like, yo, why are you guys pressing me on this? If you guys are going to be like this, I don't even know if this is the right job for me. And then we got off the phone shortly after that. I was at work training my new guy, and shortly after I was logged out of the CRM, and I called him and found out what happened. And yeah, he was like, yo, you probably shouldn't tell your boss that you're thinking about quitting. You've been great and everything, but I don't think this is working out. I don't think this is a match. But honestly, it was the best thing he could have done for me, because he released me. Like I already thought like I had what it took. You know what I mean? I already had some early success, but at the same time, at the time I probably thought I knew as much as him, which I clearly didn't. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And looking back now, I see like I was good at sales, but there's a lot more to being successful in this business than just being good at sales. And there was a lot I learned, because I went on my own for like 8 months. I ended up
Mhm.
working for someone again because I spent my money. I didn't work as hard for myself as I would for someone else. And I just learned a lot about myself and some of my immaturity. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I can look back now and recognize that. But of course, we always think at the time that, we've got it all figured out. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was some hard lessons learned.
Yeah, that's what's up. Well, I appreciate you sharing this story. It's definitely meaningful, and I want to say thank you. And we're ready to see your presentation as well. I'm ready to.
Cool.
I'll go ahead and mute
Sweet,
myself as
sweet.
well.
Yeah. So the way I learned about novations is after I went out on my own, did that for a while, realized I wasn't ready. I went and worked for a guy named Corey Geary. And that's where I learned this. And he learned it at a mastermind he was in. Like this guy spent like over $300,000 in like a 2-year period on training, mentorships, and masterminds. So he found this at a high level mastermind, the concept and the paperwork. And then basically they had a sales pitch, but the sales pitch was kind of lame. And it was good. Like you could get the easy ones with it, but there was no spiciness to it. There was no sauce. There was no sizzle. It was just like blah, order taker. And not to clown on it, but right, I developed my own pitch on that, and I started using it. And it started working really well. And I just kept refining it. Obviously the first time it wasn't a masterpiece, but I kept making it better. And Corey had his own mastermind called Novation Nation. Corey's since left the wholesale space. He's gone on to crypto and other things. But he had this Novation Nation for, maybe like six months or something. And he was playing all my calls on it. And when me and Corey ended up parting ways, all the people that had been hearing my calls and investing in his mastermind just started hitting me up out of nowhere, like, hey, yo, heard you left Corey. I've been listening to your calls. Do you need any leads? And I was like, oh, as a matter of fact, I do. Yeah. Anyway. And then I started having people slowly start hitting me up too and saying, like, hey, my team's having some trouble with novations. We've been in close them, and I see you're closing these deals. Would you mind, hey, I'll pay you some money to come on and talk to my guys for like an hour or two. And I was like, hey, sure. Yeah, I can do that. Cool. And that's how I started getting my first training clients. And luckily, right, since I was with Corey, his mastermind, I want to say it was like $5,000 or something like that. So like the people that bought into it, they were already actively wholesaling. And some of them were like high level wholesalers. Like one guy, Spencer Shadrack, he was one of my early clients and he was doing a ton of deals. So when I started getting them success, birds of a feather flock together and they all kind of connected with other high level people. And that's how I got into training. But I've been doing novations for about 2.5 years. And I've been on my own for about 2.5 years now, fully. And I'll do a screen share here and I'll just give you guys an overview on what it looks like. Novations. Okay, cool. Y'all can see that in here. Big green screen or orange screen. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can see it.
So novations. So you probably heard different explanations on what a novation is. Okay, the way I'm talking about it is just selling your wholesale deals on the MLS. Okay, some people do full remodels on these. I don't. I like selling the deal. I don't like fixing the house. So I do little to no work on the vast majority of these deals. So yeah, you may have heard from Pace Morby because you can do these where you do full remodels. And Pace Morby, huge influencer in the real estate space, right? So when he talks about it, a lot of people get a chance to hear about it. So that's how most people think of novations. But you actually can sell your wholesale deals as is properties. You can sell turnkey properties. You can sell luxury properties, the whole 9 yards, from the crappiest of the crap to the best of the best. As long as there's margin and motivation, you can make these deals work. So if you guys haven't heard of me before, my main place where I drop value is going to be my Instagram. You can follow me. It's at Novation King. I post tons of live calls. I go live almost every day doing live calls. I post clips. I drop value. It's not a bunch of pictures of me like eating food and stuff like that. Like it's almost all like real estate stuff on there. So if you follow, you should get some real value out of it. And I've got people doing deals just from watching my free content. What is a novation? So the actual word novation, so it can mean a million different things, right? It's just you wholesale anything. And novation is just replacing one contract with another. Now, okay, real quick too. Why do we call selling your deals on the MLS a novation? It's because when the buyer is using a loan, you can't assign a contract and you can't do a double close in most cases. So you have to do what's a novation agreement, where basically you have your A-B agreement, then you have your buyer, your third party, which is the C, and then you do an A to C agreement. So the original seller signs with the buyer, and I'll get into this in a second. But basically, they replace your A-B agreement with the AC, and that's how you get paid. Because the lender doesn't want to see you in the middle there. They don't want to see you on the offer. They don't want to see you on any of that. They want to see the owner of record. So that's why we use a novation if the buyer's using a loan. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, you're going to be able to do more deals, okay? Because if you're just wholesaling, your kind of avatar is going to be a property that's in rough shape, that's a good fit for someone that's going to come in there and fix it up and resell it, right? Or possibly a landlord. But it's going to be an investor buyer that's using the property to make money. So yes, our wholesale deals awesome. I love wholesale deals. I've done millions of dollars in wholesale, and we still do wholesale deals today. If it's a good fit, wholesaling is much quicker, simpler, and easier, honestly, than novations. I won't lie. Wholesaling is easier than novations when you find the right deals. But the problem is there's just not as many wholesale deals as there are novation deals, right? So you have to do a lot more marketing if you're just doing wholesale deals than if you have this other tool in your tool belt. So yeah, you can monetize these leads that normally you just have to throw away. Another part, you get bigger spreads with novations. Why? Because you're dealing with non-professional buyers, okay? And you're also dealing with people that don't need to make any money. They're just looking for a place to live. And the MLS has the most eyeballs, right? Think about it. Where do most people go for when they look for a house? So you have the biggest marketplace in the world, and you have less sophisticated buyers that aren't looking to make money. The third thing is the transparent process. So the way that now not everybody does it this way. Some people still lie, but like the way that we do novations, like in the Rainmaker group, is the seller knows what's going on. Before they actually agree and under contract, they understand we're going to be selling to a third party. We have the option to use the MLS. We're going to be making money off the deal. They get their net amount. We handle the work. We handle the selling, and we negotiate our fee with the buyer. And whether we make $1 or we make $1 million, they're going to get every penny they're promised, and we're going to work on our profit, and that won't have anything to do with them. So what's good is you get their full cooperation too, because they understand the process. They're not getting thrown off when you need to do showings, like wondering, like, why do they have to keep coming back? They understand, like, these are potential buyers, and we can give them more money for their property too this way. We can make deals work that wouldn't work as a wholesale. So for the retail buyer end, what kind of properties work best? So move-in ready, that will pass FHA or VA inspection. So no major problems with the roof, no major problems with electric, plumbing, flooring, safety concerns. VA and FHA, like paint outside is another one. Obviously got to have AC and cooling, you know, depending on the climate. But you also can do the as-is ones on market, but you're just not going to be able to sell it to someone with a loan. It's got to be cash only. Okay. You know, obviously the better market it's in with the lower days on market, the better, because we always want to move these fast. So if you're in an area where the average days on market is like 200 days, I mean, yeah, you can pull it off, but just realize like you're gonna have to price it really aggressively to sell it in the time frame you need to, or you have to have a long time period to have it out there. So the seller does need to have some time. Like if they're losing their house next week, you ain't gonna be able to do a novation because it's gonna be at least 30 to 45 days, and normally more like 60 to maybe even a little bit more. Because from the time you get the buyer, it's going to be a 30-day process until the loan gets funded and the deal closes, right? You have some extra hoops to jump through because it's not a cash as is. It's like a traditional sale. And people ask, can you do these on the market? No, unless you actually do fix and flip them and do significant work. So there are people that make that model work. And I actually have a buddy that I can refer you to if you have any deals like that, that are more of a fit for a remodel than for as is, or like at the luxury end of things. Like if you can get $1.5 million house for $1 million and it only needs a couple $100K in work and there's margin, it may make more sense to refer that out and have it fixed and flipped where you can still get a fat check without having to do any of the work or do any of the risk. But yeah, normally these are direct to seller off market. Okay, so traditional wholesaling. The way we normally do this, we get it under contract, right? Then we got to look for cash buyers and realtors so we can skip trace them. We'll send them to Facebook groups. We'll cold call recent buyers, text blast, email our list, maybe reach out to other wholesalers to JV. You know, we've done tons of deals like this. It does work, of course, right? But it's labor intense. Let's face it, right? You know, once you get established in a market, you have all that built up. But if you're doing different markets across the country, right, there is a pain point there of finding new cash buyers all the time. All right, then you got to set up the showings. If it's, you know, if the people are living there, that can be kind of awkward. You got to negotiate with the buyer, and then you either sign it or double close. So the issue with this is there's only a certain percentage of properties that work for this, right? The seller has to be very motivated because we need a significant discount. Normally the property needs a significant amount of work because that's what's going to motivate them to sell it for cheap. Let me see, you know, the buyers can come through and try to say, hey, you know, I saw this on Facebook Marketplace for this amount. And if you didn't tell them that you're wholesaling it, then that can cause a problem. There are some shenanigans involved, and the cash buyers, right? They're the most sophisticated people. You know, obviously they have the money to be buying these houses cash. They didn't get in that position by making dumb decisions, right? So they are sophisticated. They know how to negotiate. And if you're newer, they will smell that on you, right? And that's why it's good for a lot of times to partner with people when you're new. But yeah, those are some of the downsides, right? And trust me, Novations is not all rainbow and sunshine. And I did mention wholesaling probably is easier when you find the right properties. But the beauty of Novations is you can monetize a lot higher percentage of your marketing with these, but there are some moving parts to it. Now, a lot of people ask, why would a seller want to do this? Why wouldn't they just list with a realtor? Why wouldn't they just, well, you have to ask yourself the same question of like, why do pawn shops exist, right? For speed and convenience, right? We all know if you got a gold Rolex, if you take it down to a jewelry store, or even better yet, if you sell it on eBay privately to a collector and go through that process, that's the way to get the most amount of money for your Rolex. But if you need money right now, you don't know how to use eBay, or you don't want to, right? Pawn shops exist for that reason. People are looking for speed and convenience, and they're willing to sacrifice equity. Basically, the type of people that are an avatar for this are people that are looking for a hands-off experience where we just deliver the result. They don't want to hire a realtor. Maybe the house does need some minor things that they can't handle. Maybe their life situation is such where the money is not their top priority, right? Maybe there's an illness in the family. Maybe there's an immediate financial need that, or maybe some sort of situation, divorce, all sorts of different things can go on. Drug use, even in some cases, right? Like they have some sort of personal situation where the traditional process is not appealing to them, and they're looking for a cash offer. But the problem is in order to get a real cash offer, it's going to be way below where they want to be, right? Cash offers, normally we have to be 50, 60 cents on the dollar, right? So basically what we can offer them is most of the speed and convenience of a cash offer with a higher price. And basically the trade-off is they give us a little bit more time, and they understand that it's a process. It's not going to instantly happen, like taking the Rolex to the pawn shop. They're basically consigning it instead. And we handle all the legwork with our expertise. And you have to have a really good sales process on how to position this, right? Because yes, if you do position it the wrong way, they're going to say, why don't I just list it with a realtor? But basically what we provide them is convenience, peace of mind, expertise, and certainty. So that's kind of like the main benefits. Okay. How do we find these deals? The same way you find your wholesale deals. All the normal methods: text, cold call, PPC, mailers, bandit signs, referrals, JVs, SEO, mailers. I don't know if I missed anything, but RVMs, all the normal methods, because we're looking for motivation. It's not condition related. Remember that. So for some of these inbound methods, this is extremely effective, like especially like PPC and mail and stuff like that, because you're not targeting for distress. You're targeting for people that are raising their hand, actively looking to sell their house. So you'll come across more life situations and not house situations with those marketing channels. But yeah, we're just looking for people that are looking for speed and convenience and looking to sell, just like a wholesale deal. What's the sales process? So I'll give you a brief overview, because like literally we could be here all night talking about this. So like the sales process is 3 phases. Okay. And through the first 2 phases, 90% of the call, we're looking at it from a cash offer perspective. Okay. We're not mentioning novation. We're not mentioning concierge service, none of that. We're just evaluating it. So the 3 phases break down like this. 1 is the discovery phase. So the discovery phase, we're setting the stage. We're basically getting all the basic facts of the timeline, their situation, occupancy. We're just looking to uncover information. It's very customer service. It's very low friction. There's no negotiating. There's no pushback. There's no sales techniques, none of that. We're just really empathizing with them, listening to them, asking probing questions, and trying to uncover basically the full situation. Because the better we understand the seller's situation, the better we can craft the perfect solution that's an obvious choice for them to move forward with, right? If we just know about the house, it's hard for us to make a overwhelmingly compelling argument on why they should pick us. But if we know their full situation, what they're trying to avoid, what they're trying to go for, all that, it gives us much more, we can dig deeper and really touch their soul with our proposition, because we can solve every one of their problems that they're worrying about. So yeah, the anchor phase is low ranges, basically bring up some potential roadblocks that can be in their path if they go these other ways. And basically we're looking to negotiate the price down to a realistic level where we can actually get the deal done. So that's the anchor phase. The third phase is called the deliver phase. That's where we actually do a cash offer takeaway, and then we give the concierge service approval, where we let them know, hey, look, a cash offer is probably not going to be a fit. There's a number we buy it at, but it's much lower than where you're wanting to be. However, we do have this other option I didn't really mention because not very many properties qualify for it. It's called the concierge service. However, got great news. Like, I have a full approval here. And this was the one I was really excited about. I was really hoping we could get this done this way, but I didn't want to get my hopes up because like the last 20 ones I've submitted have all been denied. But this one has a full approval. Let me explain. The concierge service, basically you get all the benefits of a cash offer, meaning you don't have to fix anything. You don't have to pay any realtors. There's no commissions, fees, closing costs, none of that. Basically what we do is we give a hands-off white glove experience where we deliver the result on a silver platter. So from doing so many deals in Arizona or whatever state they're in, we have a network of other investors, realtors, and even retail buyers where sometimes we have properties that don't fit our criteria, but it's a perfect match for someone within our reach. What we can do is we can give you a net amount and we negotiate a fee from the third party buyer. And we kind of play matchmaker in the middle. So you can kick back. You don't have to lift a finger or spend a penny. We just deliver the result on a silver platter and blah, blah, blah. And then there's a whole long pitch on it, right? And I walk them through the paperwork and they sign right there on that first call, on that first offer pitch. So yeah, we have a very compelling sales process with it. It's extremely effective and it's super repeatable. If you watch my calls on Instagram, I say the same thing over and over. And all the people in my course say the same thing that I say for the most part. Like they put their own little twist, but all the major milestones and checkpoints, we all hit because it works very well. Okay, so I'll leave that alone because I could keep going for a long time on that. Overview on the paperwork and the process. So basically, the initial paperwork, you give them a purchase agreement, which is like a 3-pager. You give them a novation/indemnification agreement. That basically explains what happens if the buyer's using a loan. They get their net amount. We pay all the other stuff. And then we have what's called the AIF, attorney in fact. So this is what allows us to hire an agent on the seller's behalf and list the property on the market. So since we don't own the property and we're not representing them as a realtor, we need the AIF to be able to use the MLS. Now, you can use a flat fee broker without it. Honestly, flat fee brokers suck. I would not recommend doing that to anybody. I would get a real good local agent. That's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, once they sign those 3 things, they're all DocuSign. None of them have to be notarized. We interview and hire realtors. We figure out who's the best realtor in the area. We call the realtors that have sold recently, interview them. There's a whole process behind that too, but I won't get in the weeds on that. Then once we select the best realtor, we find out what's our listing strategy. Do we need to clean this thing out? Are we not going to touch it? Do we need to get pictures? Do we need to help the seller move? What do we need to do to get all our ducks in a row? And then basically we get the pictures of the property. Once we have all that figured out, we start the listings and the showings. Once we have an acceptable offer, right? So the offers are coming in. The seller's not seeing any of the offers. The offers are all coming to us. Once we have an offer that we can select that works, then we present that offer to the seller as our offer from the third-party buyer. They need to sign it just like we explained to them in the paperwork. They sign the offer. We submit everything to title. And in most cases, we file what's called a notice of interest. Okay, it's a lien on the property where it clouds title. You don't always have to do that. Some title companies don't require it, but it is just another layer of protection. And basically, they have to go through the traditional inspection period. Most of the time, they have to do an appraisal. If there's any required repairs, we either have to give them a credit or we have to do the repairs, depending on the type of loan and the lender's requirements. Then they give us, once we have all that settled, they give us a preliminary settlement statement where we balance out our fee, where we make sure the seller gets what they're promised. We pay all the fees and commissions we're supposed to pay. And then we find out down to the dollar after the closing costs and everything, what our net amount is. And then we base the lien, we get the lien release, and then they close the deal. We get paid as a line item on the HUD as a lien release. The seller gets paid their net amount, the buyer gets the property, the realtors all get paid, the title company gets paid, the workers workers get paid if we got any work done on the house. So it's a win-win. The seller gets everything they're promised. We set the expectations from the beginning. People ask, do they get mad if you make money? If you treat them well, they will never get mad. And if you don't lie to them and you set the expectations right, they will not get mad. If you're lying to them and you're not setting the expectations right, I promise you they will get mad. They will. Not all of them, but eventually someone will, and they will give you trouble. So you want to get really good at being able to present the truth in a palatable way and know how to say the right thing at the right time. But it's all pretty easy. Once you get it down, it's a super repeatable process. Okay, so let me show you some real case studies here. Okay, so here's one in Avondale, Arizona. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It's a suburb right outside of Phoenix. The situation was, this was a JV deal sent to me on Instagram, and you'll see all my deals are all JV. I do zero marketing. We have 20 deals going right now. I've got 3 closers working with me that are all graduates of the training, and people just send me JV deals from my Instagram, just for me posting calls and me asking for JV deals. So this was one that didn't work as a wholesale deal. And the seller did not want to go through the traditional listing process, right? They were moving out. She had 2 dogs. She was just kind of a very, very particular type A type of personality. To be honest, she was a little challenging to work with, but that's okay. That's why we make money, right? But yeah, basically the condition was pretty good. And I think this is a link. This should let me click through here. Open Safari. Oh, wait, let me make sure I'm sharing my whole screen. I might just be sharing that window. Okay. Boom. Okay, you guys see this? Zillow? Okay, cool. So this is the property. So, and the pictures kind of suck. They look kind of weird. But you see the property. It's clean. It doesn't look like a new build. It looks like a house that was built in the early 2000s that people took really good care of. And that's what it is. It's old style, kind of weird pictures. It has a pool, not bad. And Avondale's a nice area. It's a desirable area. It's not super ritzy, but it's a good, like, upper middle class to middle class type of area. And pull back up my okay. So the only work we had to do was like a $600 repair on the roof. It was super easy. And that was after we already had the buyer. So we got this thing under contract on April 14th. We listed it about 2 weeks later. And we got it under contract about 2 weeks after that. And then basically, what is that? 3 weeks? We closed it. 3 weeks after that. So altogether, from start to finish, it was almost 2 months. Okay. And you want to try to keep these deals under a 60-day window. And the way you can do that is make sure you get a realtor right away, make sure you get it listed right away, and then make sure you have it priced correctly where you can get an offer within the first few weeks. I'm not an advocate of trying to milk these deals. I'm an advocate of bringing a lot of deals in, pushing a lot of deals out, and making sure you get them sold. Because our number one obligation is to the seller, that we promise them speed and convenience. We promise them a result. We don't want to get greedy. You make your money by getting good at discounting them on the offer price. You're not going to make your money by trying to find a dumb buyer that's going to overpay. Buy it deep, sell it cheap. That's my philosophy, and I just made that up. I'm going to keep that. Okay, cool. Trademark, Novation King. All right, buy it deep, sell it cheap, baby. So we had it under contract for $435. Okay, and we sold it for $510. So it looks like we made a bunch of money, but we only made 20 bands on this. I say only. Hey, look, it's a good position to say 20 bands is a small deal, but it's not. It's there's people that in my group that have done $200,000 deals. So like a lot of stuff came out of this. And I'll pull it up. I think there was a buyer credit, if I remember correctly. Give me 1 second. I'm going to see if this is going to let me. Oh, no, because it's in my Gmail. But basically, there was a credit for some repairs that we didn't do. 6% on 500,000 is a good little chunk of change, too. And then there was closing costs. And then we did like a profit split, too, with the JV partner. But still, this was a deal we would have made $0 on without the Novation strategy. And let's say hypothetically, you could add one $20,000 deal to your existing marketing that you're already spending the money on. Let's say you do one extra deal a month. No matter how many deals you're doing now, maybe you're only doing one wholesale deal, maybe you're doing 20 wholesale deals. I don't know. But you add one extra deal a month over a year, right? What does that add? Like you buy a Lambo, basically, right? Buy a Lambo with free money. You didn't spend any extra marketing. You know, you're making the net profit, right? But what most people find is when they implement this strategy, they have at least as many novation deals as they have wholesale deals. And depending on what type of marketing you're doing, you might find that the vast majority of your deals make way more sense as a novation than a wholesale. So if you're targeting really crappy houses, wholesale still may make sense on more deals, right? But depending on what your marketing strategy is and what markets you're in, you may find even the ones you're wholesaling, if you put them on the market, even after you pay the realtors, it still makes more sense as a novation. So I'm not like this guy, like novations or die. Like, dude, I don't care about novations. I just want to make money. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm about. I'm about making money. And, you know, the people that I work with are getting treated right too. I'm not going to screw over a seller to make money. Like, right. It's got to be ethical. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to screw anyone over. I don't want to look over my shoulder when I'm walking down the street and wonder if someone's hiding in the bushes waiting for me. Like, I'm going to do it the right way. But I don't have like this inherent love for real estate or novations. I love novations because they work and it makes a lot of money. If they stop working, I'm going to change my Instagram handle. It ain't going to be Novation King anymore. It's going to be something else. But yeah, novations, they're seriously like disrupting the industry right now. And I was just in the right place at the right time when I learned it. You know what I mean? And it's working out for a lot of people, right? And I can't take credit. I didn't, you know, I invented like the sales process, but even that's cobbled together from stuff that I learned, you know, throughout my life. So there's no new information under the sun. I don't think I'm this crazy genius or anything, but you know, I found the opportunity. I've just been running with it and sharing it. So I'll go over like 2 more case studies real quick, and then we'll do some questions because I don't want this thing to go too long here. Okay. This is one in Maryland. This was again sent by someone on Instagram. The seller had inherited the property years ago, couldn't pay the mortgage, had a bunch of roommates. He was basically renting out the rooms. They're all smoking weed in the house. There's a baby living there. There was dogs living there. It was a wreck. The house was dirty, messy, yucky, smoky, dated. Let's see if this should pull up. Is this a link? Okay, good. So this is the house, and it looks a lot better in the pictures than it probably smelt in real life. And it was in a decent area. But basically, yeah, this guy had sent me this deal and we got it under contract for $310. We did a cleaning, which cost $500. Now, I think this is a typo. I think we listed this. It took us a minute to list it, actually. I think we listed it like 4-2. I think I just accidentally deleted it. Yeah, we listed it. It was like a month later because, this guy, like the mortgage was ran up so high that he was about to foreclose. He was about to get foreclosed on, and he had like no equity. So like when this deal closed, he was standing to make like $3,000-4,000. He was smoking weed. I don't know if he had some good weed or something, but this guy just didn't care about selling the house. And like when you talk to him, he's monotone, sound like a robot. He was like a sack of potatoes. He's like, yeah, okay, yeah. But like we had trouble getting access. Like I'll be honest, like I'm giving you guys the good, bad, and ugly. This deal was a freaking nightmare. I wouldn't undo it because all the nightmare deals too are what make you a badass, where your comfort level grows and you just can handle more complex problems without stressing out. You know what I mean? So that's what I love about this too, is you will become a badass when you start doing these deals. Like you will learn how to solve problems, how to be resourceful, and you'll realize the true power is not knowing everything. The true power is knowing how to go to the people that have the answers and just being a great communicator and just being a good person, being easy to work with. That's the key. And when you learn that, you can unlock anything you want in life. If you know how to go to the right people, have some answers that you're looking for, right? We're not any different than each other. I do the same thing. I'm always looking for answers. And you'll find that like high level people, they're humble and they're always looking to learn. And so hats off to everybody in here, right? And I'm sure we all have something to teach each other. But yeah, so this one was a mess, and this one almost didn't close. And we got it under contract for 310. We ended up selling it for 360. And let me see if this is gonna, this is a mail attachment. This may not let me open this up. But this one, I believe we made close to 20 bands on as well. This one, I want to say it was like 19 or something like that. But like literally, we had $500 into the place. So, you know, the realtors all got paid. The realtors probably made more money than we did on this one. But, you know, again, it was a deal that never would have wholesaled. There was really no other way to monetize this lead. And the guy was about to lose his freaking house. And honestly, I don't think there's very many people that would have had the patience that we had to get the deal done. So we did him a service. We met a really good realtor too, like the top dog in the area. So now we've got a realtor down there. We did make money on it, you know, so everybody ended up winning. Okay, cool. All right, last one, because I know I keep giving you these 20 band ones. This one we made 68. So this one's a little bit juicier, a little bit of meat on the bone, a little something to stick to the ribs. But so this was a townhouse in California, Chula Vista. It's right by San Diego. So basically, it was a single mom, lost her job, and she was in pre-foreclosure. So the house had some updates, but the carpet, when I say it was bad, like I'm talking about pet situation bad, like number 1, number 2 type of bad. So obviously not conducive to retail sale. And it also had some unfinished flooring in the bathroom where it wouldn't pass inspection. So I know I told you I normally don't do work on houses, but my partner, my JV partner, was local in the area. He was a fix and flipper, so he already had contractors that could do stuff for cheap and get materials for cheap. So what we ended up doing was in the room that was the worst room, that was the semi-hoarder room, we paid to get storage and get all our stuff moved out. We redid the floors. Well, my buddy redid the floors, his contractor, in the bathroom and in the room. And basically we put it on the market. We found a badass realtor out there that had just sold a property in the same complex in like 4 days or something like that. I was like, dude, this is our guy. We contracted it in December of last year, right before Christmas. And we didn't list it for over a month and a half, like basically a month and a half after we got it. Long story with that too. Seller had some personal things going on. We had to do the work. There's a long story there. I'll give you the short version. And then we ended up getting it under contract though. Once it was listed, we got it under contract in like 2 weeks. And we closed in a little bit less than a month. Okay. And we had it under contract for 480. We sold it for 615. Although, and I think this one will actually pull up. Good. We sold it for 615, but that is a deceptive number because the offer did have this is the actual offer, I think, is it? Yeah, the offer had like a concession built into it with like a down payment assistance. It was something like that. So the offer was really like 600. And then the realtors got 40 bands out of our profit. And then we also had to give an additional $13K credit to them for some other repairs that they found. But yeah, and the closing costs were around $2,000. On the floors and the clean out, we spent around 12. But after all that stuff got paid, we still walked away with 68. So obviously the higher price point deals, there's a lot more room for margin. 10% on a $700,000 house is going to be a lot more money than 10% on a $70,000 house. But a win's a win, and you got to get in where you fit in. So there's nothing wrong with making $7,000. Like, right? $7,000 used to be like a great month for me. You know what I mean? Like selling Kirby vacuums, or at least a decent month. And you know, if you can, any wins you can get, especially initially with these, I would recommend going for it. Now, normally, I would not recommend doing these deals unless the realtors get paid. So I'll give you real quick too. One last thing, the formula on how to make a max allowable offer. So you need to find out what you think it needs to be priced at to sell within 30 days. So I look for the most similar properties that have recently sold. I also look for what's available on the market. And I try to compare apples to apples. So if mine's brand new remodeled, I'm looking at remodeled houses right in that immediate area within a half mile. If mine's dated but clean, I'm looking for houses like mine. Whatever kind of condition mine's in, I'm looking for those. Now, the beauty of this is I don't have to factor in the cash buyer's profit or any repair cost. I can just compare retail apples to apples, even on the as-is ones. I just look at what the other as-is ones are selling for and price mine at or slightly below that, so they sell fast. So as is retail minus 10%. So basically 90% of as is retail minus 30 grand. And the 10% is to account for realtors, closing costs, and any miscellaneous expenses, just in case you run into some miscellaneous expenses. And then the 30 grand, that's your profit margin. And the reason I say 30 grand is those first two deals that we made 20 grand on, we originally thought we were going to make more than 30 grand. So stuff happens. So don't go in hoping that you make 10 if everything goes right, because you may make 0, right? Or you may make 1,000, or you may not even be able to do the deal. So you want to build in some margin of error. And we do have more checks and balances built in now where that happens much less often, right? But there's certain things, especially when you're doing a lot of deals, right? You can't always account for everything. It's impossible. But yeah, cool. So I wanted to just open up. I'll stop my screen share real quick. Oh yeah, the chat's booming. I wasn't even watching the chat here. We can take some questions from the chat, or we can have some people on. I mean, however you want to do it, Oscar. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, if anyone has a question, raise their hand and feel free to ask your question. We'll do them in order. Anyone has a question? All right, go ahead, Oscar.
A quick question. What happens if all of a sudden the seller changes their mind and they don't want to sell? And like you've already put work into the house.
So you got to find some thugs to go down there and rough them up a little bit. No, I'm just playing. So here's the key with this. This is extremely important. I'm glad you brought that up. This is why my sales process is so soft and so low friction, because you really need the seller to be on your side, because you're truly partnering up. Now, this is one reason why I don't do a lot of work on the houses. And if you know what I mean, but I make sure that I set the expectations accurately, so they don't ever feel like I told them I was going to do one thing and then I went and did something else, because that's what really pisses people off, right? When you tell people the truth, they can deal with that. But when you say you're going to do one thing and then you do something else, that's when they feel scammed or tricked. So I make sure I set expectations very well. I make sure I do whatever I can to make their life easier throughout the entire process. So whether it's helping them move, whether it's helping them find their next place, whether it's helping them with storage, if it's just checking in, or when they're nervous, reassuring them, or finding the answers, doing legwork, any sort of little thing I can do, I always try to help them and serve them and give them a 5-star experience. Remember, this is what they're paying for. They're paying a premium, right? Because we're making good money on this. I just make sure I give them a first-class ride from beginning to end, and I'm keeping them in the loop as much as possible, but I also shield them from the battles and the BS, right? Kind of like a good parent does, right? A good parent, they're not telling their kids that they're in financial trouble and like, oh, daddy's about to lose his job and mommy's cheating and like all the crazy stuff. I shield them from all the BS so that they can be happy and be in la la land, and I make sure that I deliver the result. And that's why I negotiate so hard on the front end, because then I can be certain that we can sell it. If you try to be their friend in the beginning and give them too much money and think that they're going to like you in the end, it's a bad move. They're going to hate you. They're going to hate you if you can't sell the house. So I just make sure setting expectations, giving them a positive experience. And if they truly, like, if their situation truly changes where they don't want to sell for whatever reason, I will try everything to try to keep them locked in, but I'm not going to take them to court. Like, if they really truly, and then I'll let them out of the contract, because I'm not going to spend my time fighting someone that doesn't want to work with me. I just look at it as either their situation changed or I let them get away by doing something wrong. but it's very rare. Like I can count on one hand how many sellers have like walked away from a deal with me. You know what I mean? I've done a couple hundred of these. So yeah, you setting expectations and giving them a good experience will safeguard you from that, and keeping in contact with them. You know, if you lose contact with them, that's when they start getting nervous too. And that's when they start talking to people, and then they get input from people that don't know what they're saying and all that, you know.
Yeah. And we got another question
Did
from
you have another
Kimberly.
question? I saw your hand go back up.
Yeah, well, let's answer Kimberly's question. She said, how are you sourcing your deals?
Instagram, baby, at Novation King. So all of my deals are all through Instagram, every single one of them.
Okay.
So I spend $0 on marketing up front. Now I split all my deals with other people, but I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? I'll take a smaller piece of a bigger pie. Like I'm good with it. But that's what works for me, right? Because for me, like my business is designed around my lifestyle. My lifestyle is not designed around my business. So for me to be able to spend the time I want to with my kids, to be able to take off and go on vacation when I feel like, to work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, this model's perfect. And you know, by bringing on extra people to help me close the deals, it's even freed up my time more. It's provided more opportunity for my closers to make money. And then it provides the opportunity for me to serve more people with JV deals, where they have these leads where they would have had to throw them away or try to do it themselves and messed it all up. But now they can monetize it and eat, and we show them how to do it throughout the process too. And we just spread the knowledge, because dude, there's an abundance of deals. Like if you think that there's going to be too many people knowing how to do this, that it's going to affect your business, like, bro, we're a long way away from that. Like we'll all be stupid rich before that happens. So don't even worry about it. Like you'll stack up all the money you need to be straight forever before you have to worry about the market being too saturated. So yeah, all Instagram though. And if you guys have a hot deal that you think may be a fit for Novation, the link is in my bio, in my link tree. It's submit a JV deal. My course is on there too, or whatever. You know, you see interviews, all that stuff. But yeah, peep it out there, and that's where you submit it.
And I have a question. So before you started getting leads from your IG, where were you finding them before that? Like, what was your source? What list were you pulling?
So I did cold calling for a short time, maybe like 3 months, because when I exited from Corey's, pretty much immediately I had people hitting me up, putting me in their CRMs, giving me leads, and doing like a split with me. Right now, when I left Sean Terry, I did PPC, and I ran my own PPC campaigns for maybe like 5 or 6 months, and I had some success. I closed some deals with that. But you know what I mean? I was more looking to spend my money on going on vacations and doing stupid stuff than I was like putting it back in the business. So like my lifestyle was out competing my business at that point, and that's why I ended up having to work for Corey. So yeah, PPC is my favorite lead source, but all the lead sources work. You just have to do them efficiently and do it past the threshold of activity to get the result. It's like doing one push-up and expecting to be ripped. Like, yes, cold calling works, but you can't call for 15 minutes a day and think you're going to get a deal. Like it ain't, or an hour a day. Like you maybe eventually on a long enough time horizon, or maybe you'll get lucky. But for most people, when they're starting out, cold calling and SMS are probably going to be your best bet, because that's going to be the most bang for your buck. Or JV. JVing obviously is the best because it's totally free. But PPC, I think, is the premium lead. But it's also kind of like owning a Formula One race car, right? It's high maintenance, it's expensive, and it's going to break. And you're going to have to fix it. So PPC is good, but it's high stakes. I wouldn't recommend someone new in the business getting into PPC under most circumstances.
Okay. Cool. Anyone else?
But yeah, lists that I like. I mean, vacant, absentee, tax default, all the normal stuff. Like there's no secret list. Tax default's probably my favorite, just because that's the one I've gotten the most deals off of. But that's just me.
All right, Benjamin, go ahead, ask your question.
Hey, can I jump?
Cool.
Yeah. Hey, first, nice off. First off, nice to meet you, Novation King. Appreciate you coming in here and sharing your knowledge with us. What's the in your experience so far? What's the most pain or like the highest pain point that you've seen people that make sure transaction fees? Is it really that they're just trying to get out of the house? Is it because they're in pre foreclosure? Like, is there like a systematic way that people that you're seeing a continuous thing with these deals that these pain points are? So when you're filtering through potential prospects, that you already know that okay, I've hit 3 of these pain points. This is going to be a good novation agreement for me.
Sure. That's a great question. I haven't really thought about that because I'll be honest, there's not really like a common situation that I see over and over. Like I'm trying to think of like out of my current deals, right? So like, or like just recent deals that I've signed. Like I got one lady, her husband died a couple years ago. She has a big house in Delaware. She's already moved to North Carolina. The house has just been sitting there. It's already paid for. She hasn't done anything with it, but she's out of state and she just doesn't want to deal with it and doesn't want to hire a realtor. She was considering hiring a realtor, but we were able to scoop in there quick enough, right? Because she was exploring cash offer options. Like, okay, so now that I'm saying this out loud, this is the common thread. They're looking for a cash offer, but they can't find a cash offer that's suitable for them. I would say that's the common thread. They're looking for a cash offer, but their needs not being met there. And now they're considering going the traditional route, but there's something about that that's unappealing to them where they don't, because let's face it, most people, when you sell your house, you're going to hire a realtor and you're going to go the traditional way. So there's some life situation that it doesn't make sense to sell at a wholesale price. And they don't want to go the traditional route. So this is kind of the hybrid happy medium. But the nuance of it is you still have to evaluate it from a cash offer perspective, because that's how you keep your leverage and your power. You have a much stronger negotiation position when you're evaluating from a cash offer lens than if you're evaluating from a novation lens. Because what I found is the more you talk about novation and concierge and all that, when you're not actively closing, the more confusion, uncertainty, and basically it's bringing you the wrong direction. And that's why my novation pitch is very clear and concise, and it's followed directly by paperwork and running through the details and signing. Because the more they think about it, they start running all these imaginary scenarios in their head. And that's why the pitch, we focus on the result and not the process. We don't say, well, yeah, seller, it's going to be great. We're going to interview all these agents, and then we're going to find the best one, and then we're going to hire them, and then we're going to figure out the strategy. Blah, blah, blah. Like their head's going to explode. It's like, look, you've been selected. We're very careful on which ones we pick. We're going to deliver this result on the silver platter. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to fix anything. It's going to be a dream come true. And then they hear all the details when we're running through the paperwork. So I do read through the entire contract and give them full disclosure. So the tricky thing is they do hear everything, but it's extremely important the order that you present everything, the timing, and the energy. That's the magic sauce where you can get like a really high conversion rate. When you have a really dialed in process. Now you can do it a different ways and you'll get the easy ones, but you'll get like a much higher percentage of people when there's an emotional journey that goes along with it. Same way, the reason they sell timeshares the way they do, because it freaking works. And it's annoying if it's not a fit for you, it's not going to work, right? So the only people that are coming out the end of my funnel are people that really want what we're offering, which is peace of mind, speed, and convenience. But yeah, that's what I would say. People looking for a cash offer, but the cash offer is not fitting. And there's something that's resisting them away from going just the traditional route.
Okay.
Cool. Good question, though. That made me think, bro. I don't think anyone's asked me that before.
That's good. Anyone else have a question?
Yes. So Novation King. So when you say that tax default, do you mean like they have like tax liens or they haven't paid for a while and they're
Yeah.
that type of
I
situation?
like the unpaid taxes because this is normally the situation. They don't have a moratorium before they get a tax default. So the people you'll see that are on the tax default list, are going to be a grown-ass child that inherited the house and got a free house and didn't pay the taxes. And they normally didn't take care of the house, and it's normally a big mess. So it's a great opportunity for wholesale, Novation as well, but they're not emotionally attached to the monetary part of the house because their family member got it for really cheap. They didn't put any money into it. So I've seen fat deals off of those deals, right? Because you're basically drawing out of, in their mind, somewhat free money compared to, right? We'll contrast that to someone that like literally slaved away for like 40 years to pay off the house, right? And this is like the retirement nest egg. They have a different emotional connection than like a drug using kid that inherited the house from his mom and has let it go to crap and didn't even bother to pay the taxes. They're going to be a little bit more loose with it, right? And there's more problems to solve there. So that's why I like tax default, but with any list source, there's pros and cons. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
tax default's good.
And we'll
Or
take
it'll be like a lady that like her husband died or something, and she's on a fixed income and she truly just can't afford to pay the taxes too. And that's another situation where they really do need someone to step in. And a lot of times there is deferred maintenance and everything. Now the tax default is more like when I was doing just straight wholesale deals, but I would imagine they would work fine with Novation too. But I'll be honest, I haven't done any really cold calling since I've been doing Novation. So.
Okay. And we'll take the last question from 654321.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, go.
Back to 2 questions ago when you mentioned you mentioned your answer to the question was that they're looking for an offer that's not, fitting for them. Is that because they're more uneducated on what the house can be valued at? Do they just not have an idea at all? Or are they overpricing and want too much? Or kind of what makes that the answer in terms of that they're looking for someone that's not.
Oh, you're saying like, why doesn't the wholesale offer work for them?
Yeah.
Okay, so it could be a couple things. Because if they want like more than the house is worth, or there's not enough margin for us to make money with a Novation, it still won't work, right? Because we need to make at least 30,000, and we still have to pay realtors and closing costs. So we're gonna need to get it more than 30,000 under what it's truly quote unquote worth, right? What a retail buyer will pay for it. So we're still getting it under market value. But like, we'll say like this, right? Think of a house that with a seller, right? Where it's not fully remodeled, but it's not a dump that needs to obviously be remodeled. It's just average or somewhere in between fully remodeled and complete dump. It falls somewhere in that spectrum, right? So they're willing to take a discount, but let's say for a cash buyer to buy it, right? He's got to remodel it, because he's not just going to buy it and resell it. He has to remodel it, or she, right? They have to remodel it, and they need the margin in there to be able to remodel it, to resell it, pay closing costs, and make money. So really, whether the house is a complete dump or it's just dated and not current style, it costs the same for the flipper to fix it for the most part. We got to put in new cabinets. We got to put in granite. We need stainless steel. We need the flooring. We need all that. But right, let's say the ARV's 300, the seller's willing to take 200,000, right? But a fix and flipper is going to have to redo the whole thing 70, 80 grand, and there's no margin in there, right? They'd be doing it for free. But let's say, even though the ARV's 300, you could sell it as is for 250. So the seller is willing to take the 200. You can sell it for the 250. You're going to pay roughly 10% in realtor fees and closing costs. So 250 minus 10% is 225. You still have $25,000 of margin and profit in there that wouldn't be there on a wholesale deal, because you're not selling it for full ARV, you're selling it for as is retail. So you can, as long as you can create enough margin for you to make at least 30,000, the deal's viable. So you can even take $1 million house, right, and get it for 800,000. There's not enough room in there for someone to go remodel it. But, or let's say 950, right? As long as there's enough margin in there for you to make at least 30,000, you can make the deal work. So it's all those deals where you thought like, man, if Warren Buffett was just my uncle and I had access to as much money as I ever needed, I would just buy this house, throw it on the MLS, and go on my merry way, right? Well, now you can do that because you don't have to buy it. You can just get it under contract and explain it to them, and then you can resell it and you make the margin. Because we take for granted, like, going out and finding the best realtor that will actually get it done, that is a skill. That is a skill. And if you don't believe me, just get any old realtor to list your novations and you'll see. Like having the wrong realtor, it ain't going to go smooth, and it probably ain't going to happen. So I'm really good in getting them to want to give me their best and impress me and form a relationship. And that's extremely important skill to develop, right? So the leverage is we work with really good people. So I can trust them. I can take advice from them. I don't want someone that I'm sitting here training to be selling my house, right? If you don't know more than me, I may as well do it myself. So I'm always looking for people smarter than me. Always. And just be humble enough and really realistic enough to know, look, all of us, we're probably really good at maybe one or two things. Let's be honest. Like, as far as like really, really good, like better than most people, it's probably one or two things if you're lucky, right? So for all the other things, find people that's their thing that they're really good at. And you'll find realtors, some people make a whole freaking life out of it. A lot of these realtors, they're not married and they don't do things on the weekends. They sell houses and they take the late calls. They take the weekends. They'll drive out there. These people work hard. Like, the good ones are freaking superheroes. And they will do all the dirty work that will make your life hell if you're doing it yourself. Like, they're literally diving on the sword for you. And that's why I don't discount their commission, because it's worth it. I pay them, you know what I mean? Because they get the deals done. They do all the stuff that allows me to live my lifestyle the way that I want to and not have to take all those late calls. And I don't want to hire someone to have to do that either. Because the person I hire, think about it. If I just hired someone to like list all my properties, like one person, they ain't going to be able to do it. You know what I mean? I'm always looking for the best person for each property. That's why I call the people that have sold in the neighborhood. Because think about it, logically, they're going to be the most qualified. They just proved they know how to sell houses there. And normally they're local too. Like, I want someone that's right up in there where that's their backyard. That's their home turf. They know everybody. They have all the connections. They have the network, everything. They know all the local laws, rules, regulations, all that.
Cool. All right, we'll take the last question. Luis, what you got?
Hey, Novation King, thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate it. So you don't do you deal with ARVs at all? I'm dealing with a seller right now. We're saying that we get somebody, but we need to put in so much money in renovations. Do you at all disclose renovation costs? And do you try to get to ARVs, or do you just sell as is retails?
So you're saying, let me make sure I'm understanding the question. Are you asking, am I using renovation costs and ARV as part of like a negotiation tool to get the price down? Is that the question?
Yes and no. Are you at all looking at, or are you disclosing what you're gonna be spending in any renovations to get the most for the house once it's sold?
So I'm really not doing renovations, right? But when I'm looking at it from a cash buyer perspective, right? When we're in, say, like the anchor phase, I was talking about the second phase, then yes, I use that sometimes as a negotiation tool and a reframing tool. For example, let's say they bring up their neighbor's house that just sold for $300,000, right? I'm using the $300,000 mark from our last scenario. And they're like, yeah, well, hey, look, my neighbor, they just sold for $300,000, right? And be like, oh, wow, they did. Oh, let me look that up real quick. Okay, great. Yeah. Was it the one? Okay. Yeah, let me take a look at it. Oh, wow. Yes, this one did just sell. You were right. Oh my gosh. And oh, I see. Yeah, it looks like it looks nice. They did some work to it, right? Like, oh well, yeah, they've got a tile backsplash, granite countertops, cabinets, oh, brand new flooring, plank tile floor. Oh, they did the bathrooms, walk-in glass shower. Oh, it looks great, like and then I'll use that, right? So I'll use it as a tool where I'll be like, hey, if you were to do that type of work, right, it would be expected that, you could get a similar price to that, but just something to consider, like, I don't know, I'm not a construction expert by any means, because I always position myself as an information gatherer, but, I'm not a construction expert, but I know, like, hey, kitchen cabinets, appliances. I mean, even on the kitchen alone, it's not hard to spend $20,000-$30,000 for a top of the line kitchen, even in a smaller house. And, have you looked at prices for flooring recently? Like, they've gone up, and like, I'll use that as a negotiation tool. But like, it's not part of my offer calculation, because I'm not selling it to fix and flipper. And even if I am, I'm just looking at what the other one sold for, right? Because then it just makes my math much more simple. So yeah. I might do like rough numbers just to see, because sometimes like you'll see the cash sale, like someone got just like a crazy good deal and you actually could get more for the property, or maybe it was a fix and flipper that was direct to seller, right? And there was room for a wholesaler in there to make some money. But yeah, like repair costs, like I talk about that very little. If anything, I'll ask the seller what they think it would cost to fix, and I kind of play dumb, and I'll use their numbers, right? Whatever they are, unless it's something like ridiculous, but it means more when it's coming from them anyways. But I don't use ARV very much. I try to compare apples to apples as much as I can, and I'm always hitting them with the lowest comps in the neighborhood too. So it keeps it simple, because it gets complicated. Every cash buyer has different criteria, and yeah, if you got to jam out of here, Oscar, is totally cool. I could go for like 15 more minutes if there are more questions. I'm fine either way,
Yeah, no, it's all good, Richard. Well, I definitely appreciate your presence and the knowledge that you shared with us. If anyone wants to join his community, he does have a private Facebook community, and that's included when you buy his course. You could buy his course in his link in his bio, in his IG. And I strongly recommend to go check it out, because he provides more. Like, he's already providing enough value for free. Imagine what value he provides when you pay for it. So if anyone wants to,
I'll tell you what I'll do too.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a discount code for everybody that's on this call. We can put I'll write it as soon as we're off, but it'll be Oscar, OSCAR, and that will give you half off the program if you sign up in the next 2 days.
Okay.
And
so it's only up for 48 hours, and he's gonna create that. He's gonna send it to me, and then I'll send it to everyone who was on here. And I definitely appreciate you, Richard. And I'm sure at least 2 people are gonna sign up, within the next 48 hours. Because I'm gonna be one of those.
Awesome. And dude, if the timing's not right to sign up, send me your deals. It won't cost you anything, and it'll be better for both of us. So we can JV too. But if you want to sign up, welcome to the Rainmaker family. So
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Richard, and thanks everyone. And I'm gonna send you the DM with the discount code, so you could purchase it within the next 48 hours or less. And if you want a JV, have a deal that you've been thinking about doing, you could JV with them and just learn from someone who's done it multiple times. And I appreciate you tuning in. Y'all have a great evening and take care. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate you so much.
Cool.
We'll stay in contact.
Yes, thank you, Oscar.
All right,
Thank you,
peace.
bro. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, see
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Awesome.